Okay, so this afternoon we are going to be talking about different types of sports organizations and how funding affects them in different ways. So we're going to be looking mainly at different types of legal structures of organizations and how different legislations and government tax advantages may enable them to get more funding. Okay, so this is very UK specific, but for international students, maybe this will also apply in your home countries. So by the end of the day, we're going to think about how the management and funding for sport has progressed over time and looking at different models of management of funding in sport, looking at different community levels to amateur sports to professional, for example. We're going to think about how incorporated structures are different from unincorporated structures and what they are essentially, and then what are the various legal structures that are available to clubs. Okay, and then we're going to have to think about what charitable status means for sports clubs in terms of funding and community amateur sports club status. And these all feed into our learning outcome to understand and interpret critically economic concepts that underpin the structure of sport. So we're examining the environment in which sport exists within. Okay, so sport isn't in a silo, but operates within the kind of legal framework. And we need to think also about how these organizations are going to be governed and what your role as sports managers will be in terms of governance and finance in particular. I'm also going to get you to think about what you would do in a range of different situations regarding funding. Okay. So there's two sort of traditional views of sports management. We've got the kitchen table model and we've got the boardroom model. And what does that mean? So the kitchen table model almost does what it says on the tin to some extent. So this is about how sports clubs traditionally have been managed, perhaps community sports clubs around a kitchen table, so quite unprofessional, but thinking about it as a kind of more of a people running it in their spare time on a voluntary basis. Okay, so sport can only sustain itself if it has the resources to support its activities. Most sport was run on shoestring budgets where the energies of volunteer officials and membership fees kept clubs and associations afloat. So thinking about the income necessary to these clubs, how are they going to keep them viable? Okay. In short, the people who played and administered the game provided the bulk of the resources needed for sports ongoing development. And as we say, this is known as the kitchen table approach to sports organization management, where the administration of the game was driven by a few officials making decisions from a member's home. So as a show of hands, how many of you are involved in sports clubs? Okay. Who is in charge of running those sports clubs? Is it how big are the clubs? Do they have paid members of staff, or is it volunteers that are kind of doing it in their spare time? Or are you potentially involved in running those clubs? Yeah, you're involved in running the club. What club is it?
It's called the RDFC. It's my home football club.
Okay.
I was volunteering as social media manager and taking care of the Erasmus.
Okay, so you kind of run on a community basis?
Yeah.
Yep. What about you, Heavy? You said you're a member of a club? All voluntary? Committee? Yeah, completely voluntary. Yeah, no paid members of staff. No, so kind of very much around volunteering, people getting involved in running these clubs to make them viable, essentially, because there's no budget to pay someone to do some of this stuff. Okay, so here we've got the kitchen table model. And this is a good model, and this is why a lot of clubs are kind of set up and structured this way. Okay, so you've got the ensured involvement of the people that play the sport in terms of how the club is run, which means that they are always represented in how that organization runs and operates. Okay, so it provides a strong community club focus, and you can nurture a strong set of values that center on playing the game for its own sake and kind of have that ideal of amateurism. So really embed the idea of community participation. Very easy to stay sort of firm and strong to the values of the club when it is those people that are involved in running it, essentially. Okay, and often what you can see is some people might set a club up and then perhaps new people come in over time and the club starts to stray away perhaps from the original values that it's set up with, or it becomes harder to manage because you don't have that original drive. Okay, so this is sometimes a bit of a danger. And this sort of diagram on the right goes to show what a structure of perhaps one of these clubs would look like. This is perhaps a voluntary amateur grassroots club, so at the kind of bottom end of the spectrum. So you might have a committee, they're all going to be voluntary, they're going to be volunteers that are just spending time developing the club out of a love for the sport or the club. Okay, so you might have a chair or a president, got the secretary, vice president, and treasurer, and then you might just have some ordinary committee members. What do we think this kind of dashed line between the two means, represents? What does the dashed box around that kind of committee structure represent, do you think?
The hierarchy of the club.
Okay, yep. Why, how would they be separate then? What are the kind of key differences between those that are in that box and the people below?
Decision making.
Yes, good. Could you go further?
Like the decision made by the upper hierarchy members are the full and final ones, rather than the ones who are beneath them.
Yep, good. So essentially what we're talking about with the committee here is the board or the governance structure of the organization. And if you look at some of those roles that are underneath, they're perhaps more about the doing and managing of the club rather than the governance of the club. So if you think about the governance of the people that are overseeing the development of the organization, perhaps the finances of the organization, okay, but the people below that are perhaps tasked with particular roles within the club. So you can see there about operations staff or canteen group, for example. Okay. On the other hand, we've got the boardroom model. Okay, so this is more to do with how clubs have commercialized over time and become more au fait with different sources of revenue coming into them. So widespread commercialism of sport around the world in the 1970s in particular transformed the way that sport has done business. So if we're thinking more perhaps at sport at the elite end of the spectrum here, we've got those kind of the loss of those perhaps amateur values and adopted many of the features of commercial business in their attempts to increase the scale of their operations and improve the standard of their competitions. So as sport has become more commercialized, it's changed the way it's done business, and in particular developed much stronger links with the corporate sector, which saw sport as a great vehicle for promoting their products and attracting audiences. So here we're thinking about sports clubs becoming more commercial, more corporate, perhaps taking in new revenue streams that wouldn't have been open to amateur sports clubs or some of those community sports clubs that we were talking about there. And you can see here perhaps how the structure would differ. So we still have our governance structure, okay, that group in the kind of dotted line at the top there. And we're going to have, rather than a committee, we're going to have a board. And we're going to call that a board because that's perhaps set up as a company. So it might be incorporated as a company, but then look at that hierarchy underneath it, these kind of paid members of staff that will be doing various bits and pieces. So you can think here about the kind of Manchester United's or Premiership football clubs or elite rugby clubs that are at this end of the spectrum. And we can kind of put that into a three-phase model for sports financial progress. So we've got Androff and Staudho have extended this kind of kitchen table and corporate boardroom model of sports finance by sort of proposing this three-phase model. We've got the amateur structures, traditional professional structures, and then contemporary professional structures. So amateur structures, this is equivalent to that kind of kitchen table that we looked at the start. Member focused with emphasis on participation at community level with a narrowly supported pathway to elite sports. So some of, most footballers perhaps started or whichever sport we're talking about will start off at a community club of some way before they get scouted and progress into perhaps a more elite structure. So they play their kind of role in kind of developing talent, but they're very much focused around community participation, okay? His financial viability is sustained through gate receipts, perhaps membership fees, donations, maybe subscriptions, and food and drink, okay, or concessions as it's called in some countries. Then we've perhaps got this kind of traditional professional structure. So this is the next step up from those kind of community clubs, where we've got kind of clubs that are more dependent on sponsorship and perhaps government subsidiaries whilst maintaining gate receipts and local support. So this structure is going to be primarily concerned with sports development, alternatively viewed as a sports-centered archetype, and is a forerunner of the corporate sports model. So perhaps some of the organizations we might think about here would be the national rugby team. Okay, so they're getting a large amount of sponsorship, but they're perhaps not operating all year round, and they perhaps have a broader kind of sports development focus than just playing elite. And then we kind of have that final part of the freeway phase. We've got contemporary professional structures. These are the very corporate organizations that are kind of geared towards sponsorship, brand image, activation rights, etc. Okay, so focus here on revenue generation rather than sports development, and is alternatively viewed as a business-centered archetype. So kind of tapping into different sources of revenue here. We're going to think mainly about, well, what do you think would be the main kind of revenue streams for a club like this? Shareholders, yep. Okay. So equity. What are some of these? How are some of these clubs going to generate most of their income? Merchandise? Is that what you said? Yeah. Merchandise, broadcasting. Yep. Sorry?
Not a confident answer.
Yeah, player sales. Yeah, you could generate income through player sales. Yep. Yep. Good. So very different sources of revenue to those community clubs, right? Okay. So with that in mind, have a think of those three phases of kind of development. There is an activity on Canvas if you want to download this image, and you can copy the key on the left and populate into the chart, if that makes sense. So you can download this table on the right, populate it with either the black circle where you think perhaps that revenue source is not going to be relevant, one green tick, or two green ticks if you think it's going to be very important. Is that clear? Yeah. Is everyone able to get access to Canvas now? There are a few people that weren't able last week. Everyone's sorted. Good. Okay, how are we getting on? How are we getting on? Finished? Yeah? Okay, so let's have a little think here about what we would have. So gate receipts, do we think that gate receipts are going to be of no importance, some importance, or highly important for an amateur sports club? Oh, some differing opinions here. Who thinks of no importance? Yeah, okay. Of some importance? Yeah. And highly important? Okay, so real mix. Okay, so there's no right or wrong answers here because there's going to be different clubs that are going to have different types of setup and interest, right? So I play amateur football very, very badly, so we don't get any gate receipts, right? So gate receipts are not important to us. However, some people might be playing amateur and not getting paid at a good level where they are generating gate receipts. So there's going to be a slight difference. I'd say typically it's going to be of little relevance to some importance, okay, for an amateur club. Okay, what about perhaps the kind of traditional professional clubs that we were talking about? Do you think gate receipts are going to be not important, some importance, or high importance? Some importance, yep. Highly important, yep. Good. And then contemporary professionals? Highly, yep. Okay. So if we're thinking about our community sports club membership fees and registrations, highly important, good. Traditional professional, some, and then contemporary, some possibly not have any membership fees. Yeah, they might have members of the club, but they might not be participating members in the sport, so there might be slightly different members. Okay, cash donations, amateur, highly, yeah. Traditional professional, some, and contemporary professional. Yeah, probably not going to get. You're not going to donate a lot of money to a club that's got millions of pounds already, are you? Okay. Government subsidies or government grant funding. Amateur clubs. Yeah, some traditional professional. Yeah, highly or some or highly. Yeah, and contemporary professional. Kind of depends, doesn't it? Because you could think about it depends what kind of government subsidy it is, right? So it's probably traditionally you'd say not going to be very relevant, but then government might build a new stadium for a club or something like that. So there could be some subsidies there. I say that as a West Ham fan, so. But I wasn't going to mention West Ham today because it's still kind of a sore point from last week. Anyway, right, food and drink. Amateur. Yeah, if they've got food and drink, maybe. Yeah. Traditional professional. Some highly, yeah, and then contemporary professional. Highly, probably going to make quite a lot of money from kind of selling food and drinks and beverages. Yep. Sponsors and advertising, amateur. Some, yeah, traditional professional. Some or highly, yeah, and then contemporary professional. Okay, good. Merchandise, amateur. Not really. Okay, traditional professional. And then contemporary professional. Okay, television rights fees, amateur. No importance. Yeah, traditional professional. And then contemporary professional. Great. Okay, so hopefully it's something like this. But it's no sort of set in stone in terms of what this actually looks like, yeah? Good. Okay. Going to ask you to test your understanding of the scale and sourcing of funds. Actually, do you know what? That might not work. Now, I forgot to make a note. Who won last week's quiz? Somebody could lie right now and I'd believe them. So, did you win one, Heather? No. Who won last week's? Did you? Who was it, sorry? You won. Okay, right. What was your name, sorry? Siddiq. I'm going to make a note now. Okay, so I'm going to quiz you on what we've spoken about there. You get more points the faster you answer. So, which financial model sees the administration of a sports club driven by a few officials making decisions from a member's home? Okay, yep. So we've got the kitchen table model. Yep, good. Question 2. Which of the following is a benefit of the kitchen table model? Professionalize the club opens up opportunities to large corporate sponsorship opportunities, or ensures the involvement of grassroots players and members in the club. Yep, so we have that continuing involvement of people that are actually playing the sport involved in whoever's running the club. Okay. Charlie's on a mission today, obviously. Okay, question 3. Which of the following is the benefits of the corporate boardroom model? I've obviously put a typo there. Okay, yep, developments, stronger links with the corporate sector. Question 4. How many phases did Andreff and Staulhar propose there were in the development of sports financial progress? Yeah, 3 phases. It's very, very tight. What is the first phase of the 3-phase model? Yep, amateur structure. What is the second phase of the 3-phase model? Yep. Okay, last 3 questions. What is the third phase of the 3-phase model? Yeah, good. Contemporary professional structure. Okay, 2 more. Which of the following funding sources is not a relevant funding source to amateur sports organizations? You pressed the wrong button. We've all been there. Yep. So we're going to come down to this last question, Charlie. How do you feel? Nervous? You've got it all to lose. You've been in front since the start. It's all to lose. Which of the following funding sources are amateur organizations highly dependent on? Well done, Charlie. So he's one win for Charlie. Okay. Don't worry, there's going to be plenty more opportunities. Okay, so that's the kind of first part of the session. Now we're going to talk a little bit about kind of governance and how finance intersects with governance. So if you're thinking about being involved in an organization, what's your kind of role and remit when it comes to finance? Okay, so what do you think the role and remit is if you're a board member of a sports organization when it comes to what is the remit of the board first and foremost? Yep, good. So to make decisions which benefit the club for the kind of long term, kind of setting the strategy, right? Yeah. How do you think finance comes into that? What role do you think finance plays in all of this?
Deciding the proper funding.
Okay. Yep.
And buying the proper players.
Okay. Yeah. So perhaps more broadly than that?
Using the right funds in the right place.
Using the right funds in the right place. What do you mean by that?
What funds will go into what pieces?
So
different sectors.
Creating the budget.
Yeah.
Yep. So making a budget, perhaps. Yep. Okay. What else?
Analysis, understand.
Sorry, go on, Charlie. Yeah, good. So making sure the organisation is financially sustainable, right? Yep. Okay, good. What were you going to say?
Similar to one, it just helps us to understand the real needs of the job.
Yep, good. Okay, excellent. So, yep, creating the budget, making sure the organisation is financially sustainable, perhaps trying to help attract more funding to the organisation as well. Thinking about that kind of strategy piece that Heather's mentioned there, where we're trying to think about the future revenue sources as well. Okay. Yep. So really, you're trying to safeguard the organisation for the future, and finance has got such a critical part of that because, organisations fail because they run out of finance ultimately. Okay. So I'm going to ask 5 questions to you. Imagine you're back in your community sports club, not thinking perhaps at the professional level here, but perhaps some of those community clubs that you're involved in, those amateur structures that we're thinking about. 5 scenarios. I want you to think about what you would actually do in practice in these scenarios and how governance kind of plays a part within it. So you're heading away for a month on a family holiday, and the club treasurer will have a few bills to pay whilst you're away. Would you sign a few blank checks for him to keep secure and are safe until they're needed? He's a family friend, your son's godfather, no less. What would you do?
No, I wouldn't know. There's always a chance of fraud.
Okay, so who would sign a check? Hands up. Okay.
I would sign that on a condition.
What's the condition?
I would get another person higher in a company value to also sign it all the way.
Okay, so having two signatories. Okay, interesting. But a couple of hands up. You kind of had your hand up, Charlie. Was that just because you didn't want to commit to it, or? Okay, all right. And then who wouldn't sign it? Okay, why wouldn't you sign it?
Well, they said fraud, I suppose.
Yeah. What's the danger of happening if you sign a blank check? Right. Okay. Yep. Okay. We'll come back to that. Question 2. The club shower system is broken down. It's the height of the summer or the season and money is going to be tight. The club member has said that they can get their brother-in-law to carry out the repairs during a night next week, cash in hand, to get a good price. Would you go ahead and take him up on the offer? After all, cash is king.
No.
Cash is king, guys. Come on. What would you do?
Yes.
Better to see all the invoice.
Okay. 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 So you'd be okay with it as long as there was an invoice. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah. Okay. So you'd avoid paying cash if you could? To him directly, you'd pay it to the business. Okay. All right. Anybody would take him up on it? I mean, you're going to be pretty smelly and sweaty if you don't get it fixed. No? Everyone kind of uncomfortable with that enough? Okay. Scenario 3, a friend of your husband has applied for a job at your club and has asked you to get a coffee to chat about the interview. They don't know you'll be on the interview panel. Would you meet him for a coffee?
No.
Why not?
There might be conflict of interest.
Good. Okay. Why?
because if I'm meeting someone who is having another opinion
Yep.
at the same point of time, then it might not match mine. So,
Okay. Yep. Okay. Good. Anybody would go and meet him for a coffee? Okay. So if you said, right, we're not allowed to talk about this, but you would meet him.
And we go.
Yeah.
We go.
Okay. Scenario 4, your club bar manager has asked for £500 cash. He says he secured a good deal on a shipment of wine, always good, for an event coming up. Do you need to get the administrator, or do you get the administrator to organise the money? Every penny saving is really needed in these tough times. What would you do? Think about how much more extra wine you could get, guys. Let's think about the wine. And it's good quality stuff we're talking about as well, not the cheap stuff, right? Get an invoice. Okay. God, you're all so sensible. Anybody would go ahead with it? No one at all would go ahead with it? No? Okay, and last one, a member of your committee has suggested that the contract for the grounds maintenance should just be extended again to his friend's firm rather than waste time getting new quotes. Do you go ahead and extend this contract?
I would actually research first.
Okay.
And then make the decision. If it's
Okay.
good, yes. If it's not, then no.
So you maybe get a few different quotes? Okay.
If I'm getting loyalty bonuses, I would go.
Okay, if you think they've done a good job? Yeah?
If it's been good for a while and I'm continuing with it for next year and get the loyalty, I guess.
Okay, all right. A lot to
Relationship
say for
at
that.
the same time.
Yeah? Yeah, okay. Everyone kind of happy with that? Yeah? Okay, so let's go back to our first one, which was the blank checks. Okay, yeah, you should never sign the blank checks. No matter how close a friend, there's always a risk of fraud. It's best to have policies in place for payment. 2, the showers, you probably shouldn't, no matter how great a deal it seems, it's probably best to check your options and investigate which contractors provide the best value for money. Cash payments can sometimes mean tax avoidance, and it's best not to be implicated in any way. Although when I ran this like a couple of months ago, someone said, well, we'll just like hose them down outside. We'll just like we won't worry about fixing it. We'll just like introduce a hose system. Scenario 3, this was one about getting a coffee and a chat, so probably best that you don't meet them. Although it would depend on what information you share in the conversation, it is usually best to avoid any chance of conflict of interest, which I think is the exact phrase you used. Scenario 4, this was the wine, probably no. Again, even the best deal may not be what is best for your club. It's best to investigate the source of your suppliers and what terms and conditions they offer. And 5, always best to do your research and check what options are available, because you might find somebody that, okay, you might end up going with your brother-in-law's firm or whoever it was, your friend's firm, but you've always got to have the best interests of the club at heart, right? So if there is a better deal available and you might be able to get it cheaper, then that's absolutely fine. Now, you can do your research and still go with that person if you feel that they're going to offer the best value for money. Don't necessarily have to be the cheapest, but just having that perspective. Okay, I'm going to ask you to do a little bit of reading. So if you go to the case study provided on Canvas for this week's class, it's just 4 pages and it's about England hockey. I'm going to give you 10 minutes to read through it, and then we'll have a quick quiz on the reading. Okay, and we're thinking here about the kind of governance of English hockey at the time, the finances of the organisation at the time, and how they turned it around through governance. Okay. Everyone should hopefully be able to access it okay on Canvas. The page numbers are on screen. Give me a shout if you're struggling. How's everyone getting on with Canvas, by the way? All right? Yeah? Okay.
I've had access to the one where the reading says that there are 3 models of ownership for EPL clubs and for the one.
Okay.
But not the first one. The hockey one.
Okay, so in the... No, sorry, scroll down. So it's the bit that says the reading for the second activity. Yeah. Is that working? Ah. Is it working for anyone? Try download it. It works. It works. If you download it, yeah, just try download it.
So actually, we can still just go with the one which has ownership model.
Yes. Can't get it.
It should be. You should get the PDF with that front cover with that image. Is that right? It's not that. Is it working for anyone?
Yes.
Yeah. How are we getting on? A couple more minutes? Yeah. Okay, we good? Yeah? Right, we're back to our old friend Mentimeter. And whoever's giving me likes at the bottom, appreciate that. Thank you. Is that you? Thanks. Big fan. Okay. Oh. Wait, what's happened here? No, you didn't see that. You didn't see that. You didn't see that. Okay. When was England Hockey formed to replace the defunct English Hockey Association? First error? Too quick. Yeah. Did you get it wrong? Question 2. What was one of the reasons for the collapse of the English Hockey Association? Yeah, financial mismanagement and debt of 500,000. So how did they get that debt? What was one of the issues that they had such a debt? Stadium, yeah. What was wrong with the stadium? Just cost too much money. It wasn't generating enough, yeah. Okay, so poor kind of governance from that perspective. What major sporting event in 2005 served as a game changer for England hockey? Yeah, it was London being named the host city. What was the primary condition of the £500,000 interest-free loan given to England hockey? Okay, so yeah, a complete restructuring of the board. If you go back to our 3 phases of sport development, they kind of started out with the amateur model, yeah, and they actually tried to become more corporate and perhaps moved into that middle model. Who was appointed as the CEO of England Hockey in 2009? What was a key part of the governance reforms introduced by England Hockey in 2013? Okay, so we've got the introduction of 3 independent members to the board. What do we think this means, independent directors? What does that actually mean? What was the difference there between what they had before and what they had to introduce? Who made up the board before they had the restructuring?
The structure was different.
Why was it different?
Before it was kind of a democracy, so only one person could take the decisions, and now there are like 3 directors, so the decisions can be divided.
Okay. Okay. Any other thoughts on how it was structured? So they had quite a few members involved in the board, okay, and then they moved to an independent director setup, and these independent directors weren't members of the hockey, okay, they came in with skill sets that were required to kind of develop the organization, okay. An update on the score. Whose vote go? Oh wow, okay, nice. Okay. Question 7. What achievement did the England women's hockey team reach in the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Olympics? Yep, gold medal. Question 8. What is one of the 5 objectives England hockey focuses on as a sport? As part of the strategy? Okay. So winning success at an international stage. Why do you think that's part of its strategy? Why do you think that that's going to help them? What were the key reasons for that, focusing on that? Revenue? Yep. Why?
Getting broadcast into international audience.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Good. So more interest. Yep. More sponsors perhaps as well. Yep. Shows what they're doing is working. Yep. Good. Anything else?
It might promote the sport among the youth.
Good. Yep. So more people are going to pay attention if they're winning, perhaps. Yep. Good. Okay. 2 last questions. Who succeeded Philip Kimberley as the chair of England Hockey in 2016? Royston Hogarth. And then last question. How did England Hockey aim to win back the trust of grassroots hockey in the UK? Yeah, so building bridges with hockey clubs across the UK. Okay, and the winner was... Sakura? Yes. Okay, 2 for Charlie. Wow. Okay, right. Give you a quick break. Do you want to take 5 minutes and we'll start back here at 15:15? Okay. Sorry? 10? 10 minutes. 10 past. You want to start yours? What? I'm confused. 10 minutes, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hello.
About student asking me this, but last week I missed one of the attendance. I couldn't give it. Anything with us right now?
Attendance.
Yeah,
Last week.
Yeah,
I can't go back. You can only go back one day or something, so I can't change it.
no, it's okay. Actually, I just missed. I didn't know that you have to log in first.
Ah, right. No, sorry. Okay. Sorry.
अरे उसको पूछना है
Okay, just wait for a couple more and we'll get back going again. How's everyone getting on so far, though, generally? Happy? We'll do some stuff on the first assignment next week. Yes.
I wasn't able to access the first reading.
Yes. I got your email, sorry. I'll upload it. I'll make sure it's uploaded. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, we'll get going. So, in the second half of this session, we're going to be thinking about how clubs are actually structured from a legal perspective, and we're going to think about how funding might affect them, okay, going forward. So, the legal entity or the legal structure of a sports club is really important, okay? There's a range of different reasons why it's important. The first one is the level of protection for those involved in the club. So if you're thinking about clubs that perhaps don't have a legal structure or a legal personality, there's perhaps an element of risk for those that are involved. The club's governance arrangements is going to change depending on the legal structure of the club. We've got tax implications as well, and there's also external perception. So how do people view the organization based on how it's structured? And often what is overlooked is the way in which the club is set up from a kind of legal perspective and the impact that this might have on the financial and legal position of the club. So most sports clubs in the UK are actually set up as unincorporated associations. Okay, so around 13,000 sports clubs in Scotland. Most of these are unincorporated associations, which means that they're just kind of bound together by a set of rules or a constitution. Okay, so it's a flexible, simple setup for clubs. Okay, there's little administration involved in it. In theory, we could come together and set up sports finance hockey club, okay, and we could do that, and we could just create a set of rules. It wouldn't have a legal personality, but it could be a club, and we would have a constitution, okay, and that would be easy for us to set up and do. We could do it here on the spot, and all we would be bound by is kind of the word that we have to each other and the constitution that we decide to write and the rules that we decide to write. The disadvantages of not being incorporated or being an unincorporated association are that because there's no legal personality, right, the only thing that exists is this kind of set of rules that we've created. There's no legal personality. So if anything were to happen to that organization, we could be held personally liable in some way, right? Because there's no legal personality for anybody to try and sue or enter into a disagreement with, okay? So it doesn't offer absolute protection. Insurance won't cover you in all such situations. And there's been numerous occasions of sports clubs that have been chased for money because they've not been able to pay the debts. And when they've not been able to pay the debts, there's been individual liability. So the individuals that perhaps signed off on any agreements. Okay. Tricky as well because that club can't enter into an agreement with a supplier or stakeholder beyond the names of the people that have signed the agreement. So technically, if you sign it on behalf of the club and it's an unincorporated association, it's the people that signed that agreement that are entering into that arrangement. And equally, all property has to be in the name of individuals as well. So there's a kind of a personal liability aspect here. So these are where some examples where individuals have been sort of charged when they've been involved in a sports club, but the sports club perhaps hasn't been able to meet those obligations, and then individuals have been fined or charged in some way. So advantage of the unincorporated, really easy to set up. We could do it right here, right now. We're founded on an agreement between us, no further steps involved. There's privacy. We don't have to comply with anyone. We don't have to upload accounts to anyone or reports to anyone. Okay, we don't need to submit financial records to anyone. Okay, and there's no compliance costs because it's easy and cheap, and we're not reporting into anyone. However, the disadvantage of this, there's no liability. There's no sort of limited liability. Sorry. So members of the club may be putting themselves in harm's way. They could be held liable for debts of the club and for the performance of the club's contracts. Because it's not a corporate body, it doesn't have a separate legal entity, so it can't be sued, can't hold land other than in the names of the officers or trustees, yeah, and it can't enter into contracts as well. So, based on that, I'm going to give you another chance to win a prize. So, in these situations, would you want to incorporate your club? So, you know that what the disadvantage of being an unincorporated club is. Would you incorporate in these situations? Okay, question 1. Your club is seeking to develop its own facility. Would you incorporate or would you stay unincorporated? Okay, yep. We probably would want to incorporate the club. Why would we want to incorporate the club if we were looking to develop a facility? Why would we want to incorporate the club in this situation?
Because it's undertaking a community asset transfer. So it's from the community itself. So it does not have to involve something which is related in a corporate basis.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Any other reasons why we would probably want to incorporate in this situation?
It's probably a lot more money to do it itself.
Yeah. Yeah. We're developing a facility. Probably want the facility to be in the name of the club. If anything were to happen whilst we're developing that facility, we don't want to be personally liable, right? Good. Good. Question 2. Your club is a small club and it just provides services mainly to members. Do you think you need to incorporate in this instance, or would you be okay as you are? No, probably don't need to incorporate here. Why not?
We don't need a large scale of finance.
Yeah, we're quite happy being our small little club. Okay, we're not planning on doing any big developments or taking on liability or debt in some form. Okay. Question 3. Your club is seeking to employ a member of staff. Do you think you'd need to incorporate, or you could stay unincorporated? Yeah, we're probably going to want to incorporate here. Why is that?
Because we need to pay him a salary.
Yeah, got to pay him a salary. Why should that matter?
So to get the salary, to get that finance, we need a certain incorporation and support from other parties so that we can afford that.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, good. So we need to be thinking about what it means to employ someone. And also we want to be doing that in the name of the club, right? We want the club to employ someone, not perhaps some individuals. Okay, good. Oh, Charlie. Your club strongly values the simple setup, flexibility, and little administration it currently has. Would you incorporate or do you not need to incorporate? Yeah, we probably don't need to incorporate here. Why not? Why do we not need to incorporate here? Sorry?
Because we are happy with the...
Yeah, quite happy the way it is. Yeah, we don't want the extra compliance that's involved in the administration. Good. Okay, and last question. Your club is thinking about applying for a loan. Do you think you need to incorporate or stay unincorporated? Yep, probably want to incorporate here. Why?
Otherwise, you won't be eligible for
What happens if we're not going to be able to repay some of the loan if we're unincorporated?
we won't be liable.
We would be liable for it. Yeah. Okay. Does that make sense now? What the difference is between the two and why we would want to do that? Okay, so if we've decided that actually we want to incorporate our club, there's a few different options available to us. So we can stay unincorporated and be an unincorporated association. Or if we want to incorporate, we can be one of these options on the right. So we could become a company, and that's either a company limited by guarantee. You see these abbreviations: company limited by guarantee, company limited by shares, or a community interest company. We've also got a community benefit society, which is a cooperative, and we've got a Scottish charitable incorporated organisation. Okay, so different types of legal structures with different pros and cons. So company limited by guarantee, that's probably the most popular form of legal structure in the UK. So most big shops or supermarkets or stores of some sort will probably be a company limited by guarantee. So they've got a separate legal entity, so they'll be registered with Companies House, and they'll be allowed to enter into contracts or hold assets in their own name. The members are going to be protected and only required to pay an agreed sum, which is typically £1 if the club becomes insolvent for whatever reason. So you've got the limited liability, which protects the directors of the company and members against any claims that are made against it. There's some administration and compliance involved, so we need to report into Companies House once a year and upload our accounts and our finances. But depending on how our articles are written, we may still be able to apply for grant funding. Okay. And then a company limited by shares. Now, this is going to be more of your elite clubs that are perhaps on in the professional end of the spectrum. Some of those clubs we looked at earlier, okay, and they're going to have shareholders, so people that are perhaps looking to retrieve some value from the club in some way. So they're going to have investors and people that are going to want to receive a dividend from their owning of the club. They're going to hope that club performs well financially, and they're going to be able to extract some value from it in the form of dividends. Okay, so you've got shareholders. So you've got 100% of the shares, which may be divvied up, and people might buy percentages of that organization essentially. So it's owned by the shareholders. Each shareholder's liability is limited to the amount they've paid for their shares. If a club is set up in this way and made lots of money, this could be paid out to the shareholders, which is known as a dividend. So it's quite unlikely that those amateur clubs will be set up this way. Those amateur clubs will be set up as one of the structures we're going to look at. So we've looked at two forms of companies there, and probably important to say that company kind of doesn't necessarily feel like a good fit for some clubs. We think sports are inherently pretty good things, right? Sports clubs do lots within their community and encourage participation in sport, social benefit, community benefit. Okay, so actually what distinguishes those sports clubs from being separate from other businesses if they're structured as a company, which is where some of the other legal structures perhaps are going to come in. So we're going to have a look at community benefit societies, community interest companies, and Scottish charitable incorporated organisations. And these are all organisations where you need to demonstrate you've got kind of a wider benefit to society or a community rather than just kind of making profit. So the first one is a community interest company. As the name suggests, it has to have a community interest, and that could be a geographical community like Stirling, or it could be a community of interest, such as people that really like Warhammer. I don't know, something like that. Okay, so you can have geographical interests and communities of interest. Okay, so these enjoys limited liability as the other types of companies do. You've got to meet certain requirements, which is set out how the assets can be used. So the assets have to be put back into the organization. Any proceeds need to be put back into the organization. You've got the advantage of a KIC, which is that it provides a clear, limited company structure, but is seen as being a social enterprise as well. But there's no tax reliefs, and you've got some additional administration requirements in terms of you have to write a statement each year as to how you've met your community interest. Then we've got Community Benefit Society. So this is a type of cooperative or an industrial and providence society, as they were called. Reasonably straightforward to set up. You've got to be able to demonstrate you're focused on kind of community value, again, similarly to the community interest company. It operates on a one member, one vote basis. So like a cooperative, like the cooperative food store, you can become a member of that and you would have a say in how the organization runs at their annual general meeting, for example. Okay. Also needs to comply with the other cooperative principles, so cause for the community, transparency, sustainability. Okay. And then we've got our Scottish Charitable Incorporated organisation. So this, is the name suggests, offers the benefit of being incorporated, but also being a charity, regulated by one body, which is OSCA, the regulator for charities in Scotland. And in order to register as a SCIO, the objects of the organisation have to be exclusively charitable. So what is the charity test? It's a set of requirements that an organisation has to pass to become a charity and be entered into OSCA's register. Okay. So those of you that were involved in sports clubs, do you know how the club is set up or what it's structured as? Is it
structured as an amateur sports club because it's more dependent on the membership fees and
no, sorry, of the legal structures that we've looked at. I suspect this is probably more for the UK sports clubs, but for example, do you know what your club set structure does, or it's a charitable organisation? Okay, cool. So lots of sports clubs are registered as charities because there's a kind of a broader objective there about encouraging people to participate in sport. Okay, and you might not typically think of a sports club when you think of a charity, but when you're thinking about actually getting people playing sport and you're advancing public participation in a sport, you're sort of enabling all of the positives that come from physical activity, the social benefits, the community benefits. Okay, it's actually quite a good fit in many respects. Now, here's the kind of bit which might be useful for finances, with the financial aspect of all of this. So the advantages of charitable status are you get gift aid, which is a tax relief. Okay, so you can claim gift aid on any donations that are made to the club or the organisation. You can claim gift aid on your membership fees as well. You can also get rates relief. So if you own property, you'll get relief on the rates that you'd have to pay on your property. Public perception. So people understand kind of what a charity does and is and their kind of purpose. It's also much easier to fundraise as a charity as well. And you also have other benefits, including Google Grants as well. One of the drawbacks, perhaps, of charitable status is you've got administration, so you need to compile your accounts in a way which are going to be appropriate with the regulator, and they become public knowledge. So there's no privacy; everything is kind of disclosed, which is good and proper if you're able to benefit from some of those tax advantages we spoke about. Also, if you lose your charitable status, you also become unincorporated. So because it has that dual purpose, that dual benefit, if you lose one, you also lose the other. Okay, another quick fire quiz. How much of that have you taken in? I know that was a real quick whistle-stop tour. Oh, who won the last quiz, by the way?
they never show the results
Oh, we didn't see the results.
after the last question.
It's okay, I can go back. I'll find out who it was. We'll have a look. Okay, question 1. Which of the following legal structures is owned by its members? There's multiple options here. Just need to click one though. Yeah, you've got the Community Benefit Society, which is one member, one vote. Okay. Okay, question 2. Which of the following legal structures must be for the benefit of the community? It's the Community Benefit Society. Yep. Good. Question 3. Which of the following has no separate legal entity? Yeah, the unincorporated association. Good. Which of the following combines charitable status and incorporated entity in one structure? Yeah, it's the SKIO. Good. Okay. Which of the following legal structures can be public or private? This is a tough one, to be fair. This is a tough one. Yeah, company limited by shares. What do you think a public company does when it's public? Sorry? What can you do when you're... What do you think that means, being a public company?
They can float their share in the stock exchange.
Yes, good. So anyone can go and buy a share in that company, right? Yep, good. Which of the following legal structures has no formal legal requirements? Yeah, our unincorporated association. No legal structure, no legal requirements. Which of the following legal structures is owned by shareholders? Yes, company limited by shares. Good. It's tight. Who's Stingalicious? You nervous? No? Cool, Palmer. Cool. Which of the following legal structures see individuals have unlimited liability? Incorporated association. Yep. Played it out. Well done. Well done. Sorry, remind me your name again. Ellen. Eleanor or Eleanor? Eleanor. Okay. And I will go back and find out who won that last one as well. Who was Tweeto in the last one? Who was Tweeto? In the not the one that we just did, the one before that. Somebody could just flag it right now, and I believe them. Was it yourself? Yeah. Okay.
I think the most consistent is Hunter. He's been top 5 in all the places.
Yeah, is that you? Okay. If you haven't worked out by now, lectures, 75% of them are just Mentimeter quizzes. Okay, right. So a comparison of those different legal structures there. The important things to think about from a kind of sport finance perspective are the things that are going to provide the most financial benefits. So thinking about how these organizations are structured in terms of ownership, right? And actually how much financial information you need to declare. When we look at financial statements, this is all going to be relevant. Clubs are going to have to prepare certain financial accounts that we're going to be looking at and reading and hopefully being able to tell quite a bit from, okay? Important things to think about here, tax, gift aid, rate savings, what can you do as one of these legal structures? A couple other things to think about. So we've got a community amateur sports club. Now, this isn't a legal structure. This is something that you can apply from the government as a kind of recognition. So it doesn't provide the incorporated aspect, that limited liability aspect that we spoke about, but rather as a tax wrapper for amateur sports clubs that are set up to facilitate sporting participation. Set criteria that you have to be able to get recognition as a community amateur sports club. But critically, the benefits are quite similar to that of a charity. So you can claim gift aid on donations, you can claim reduction on business rates, and you can generate tax-free income from non-members up to £100,000. Gift aid, both community amateur sports clubs and charities can claim gift aid. So charities can claim gift aid on both membership fees and donations. Community amateur sports clubs can just claim gift aid on donations. Gift aid is basically 25p for every pound that you receive, so 25% back. And you can also claim gift aid on cash donations. You can see how it might affect a kind of a sports club here. So we've got a bowls club on the left, 160 members. They own a clubhouse, changing rooms, facilities. They've got a car park. They generate £60,000 in income, none of which is through donations. Before they were a community amateur sports club, they had annual rates costs of £6,495. And then after 1,299, what percentage of that difference is it? Based on what I've shared. What is 1,299 as a percentage of 6,495? Close. 20%. So you get 20% reduction in business rates. Okay. So then on the other hand, we've got our sailing club. Okay. And that is 185 members. Our facilities, we've got our clubhouse, boat shed, boat park. Okay. Total income of £42,000, £3,200 of which is donations. And that's important because we can claim the gift aid on it. So what percentage of £4,000 is 800? 25%. And then 20% for the gift aid, and then the annual rates cost has come down by 80% through the business rates reduction. Okay. So, another quiz. So, three or five, might be five different scenarios, either 3 or 5. I want you to tell me how much of what is presented can be claimed in gift aid. Can all of it be claimed as gift aid? Can some of it be claimed as gift aid? Or can none of it be claimed as gift aid? Okay? Just 3 scenarios. Okay. So, scenario 1. A volunteer makes a 40-mile trip to do some trials, which costs £20 in fuel. They say the club can keep the expenses as a donation. What can you claim? You can claim all of this. Why? Based on what I said, why would you be able to claim all of it?
Because they've taken a charitable amount as well.
Yeah, it's a donation to the club. Yeah. Okay, so you can claim gift aid on donations. Okay, can the club claim all, part, or none of the £500 in this scenario? Cricket club is struggling after some bad weather and finances are bad. One member offers £500 on the condition that they pay it back at year end. Can you claim all of it, none of it, part of it? You can't claim any of it because it's a loan. They're expecting it back at the end of the year, right? It's not a donation. Okay. Oh, sorry. Can you claim all, part, or none of the £300 in this scenario? A football club or a community amateur sports club and charge their members £250 per year in membership subscription. Some members choose to pay an extra £50 as a donation. Can you claim all, some, or nothing? You can claim part of it. Why can you claim part of it? Which part can you claim? The £50. Well done. Oh, Beyonce. Who was Beyonce? Oh! What's your name? Jake. J. Well done. Okay. So, to conclude, actually, the way the club is structured is really important from a legal perspective, but also from a finance perspective. The thing that we're focusing on here is the funding opportunities that come from perhaps the way the club is structured. You might have to pay tax if you're set up as a company as well, and the governance arrangements as well. Hopefully, you'll be able to describe the various sources of funding for different models of sport. You'll be able to say the difference between an unincorporated and an incorporated, discuss the different legal structures, and outline things like community amateur sports club status as well. Any questions about anything that we've discussed? Okay. Good. We are going to finish up early today then. If you have any questions, I'm going to stick around for a couple of minutes. Equally, next week, we're going to start thinking about your first assignment. So if you bring your laptops, we're going to be starting doing some spreadsheets and bits and pieces as well with Excel. Okay? See you then.